My family is very happy and lively. We laugh together and play under the sun all day. Our neighbor living beside our home is a gigantic house of a rich man with two children, a son and a daughter. They always cook something very delicious and we smell its aroma every time outside the windows next to our house. One day, his whole family got sick and weak. The children looked so pale and thin and they coughed endlessly. Then the rich man appeared at a window and stood there for a long time. He stared and examined us who looked so healthy and well. He then banged down the window and ran through his house, shutting all of it, and since then, the windows were all closed. Days passed and the police came to our house with a piece of paper saying the rich man had filed a complaint against us. The rich man claimed that for years we had been stealing the spirit of his wealth and food. When the trial came for us, all of us went to the court and arrived there first. After some time, the rich man came. He had grown very old and feeble. The judge entered the room and sat on a high chair. We stood in a hurry and then sat down again. Then the trial began. The rich man's lawyer jumped up and pointed his finger at father.
Do you or do not agree that you have been stealing the spirit of the complaints, wealth, and food?
I do not.
Father said.
Do you or do not agree that while the complaints servant cooked and fried fat legs of lamb or young chicken breast, you and your family hang outside his windows and inhaled the heavenly spirit of the food?
I agree.
Father said.
Do you or do not agree that while the complaints and his children grew sickly and tubercular, you and your family became strong of limbs and fair in complexion?
I agree.
Father said.
How do you account for that?
Father got up and paced around, scratching his head thoughtfully. Then he said,
I would like to see the children of the complaint, Judge.
They came in shyly. The children walked silently to the bench and sat down without looking up. They stared at the floor and moved their hands uneasily and anxiously.
I should like to examine the complaint. Do you claim that we stole the spirit of your wealth and became a laughing family while yours became morose and sad?
Father said, Yes. The children replied,
Do you claim that we stole the spirit of your food by hanging outside your windows when your servant cooked it?
Father said, Yes.
Then we are going to pay you right now.
Father said. He walked over to where we children were sitting and took my straw hat off my lap and began filling it up with centavo pieces that he took out of his pocket. He went to mother, who added a fistful of silver coins. My brother drew in small changes too.
May I walk to the room across the hall and stay there for a few minutes, Judge?
Father said.
As you wish.
The judge replied.
Thank you.
Father said. He strolled into the other room with his hat in his hands. It was full of coins. The door of both rooms were wide open.
Are you ready?
Father called.
Proceed.
The judge said. The sweet tinkling of the coins carried beautifully in the courtroom. The spectators turned their faces toward the sound with wonder. Father came back and stood before the complaint.
Did you hear it?
He said.
Hear what?
The man asked.
The spirit of the money when I shook his heart.
He said.
Yes. Then you are paid.
Father said. The rich man opened his mouth to speak and fell to the floor without a sound. The lawyer rushed to his aid. Then the judge pounded his gavel and said,
Case dismissed.
Father strutted around the courtroom. The judge even came down from his chair to shake hands with him.
By the way,
He whispered.
I had an uncle who died laughing. You like to hear my family laugh, Judge?
Father asked.
Why not? Did you hear the children?
Father said, and they laughed really loudly inside the courtroom for a very, very long time.
The moral lesson I learned from the story is that first, everything that is happening in our lives reflects on what we do. Other people are nothing to blame on. The second is that silliness may eat or steal your intelligence and wiseness. Making and believing silly stories is the same as being a fool. Lastly, don't be greedy and envious enough to not end up as a ridiculous and imprudent man. The value in this story is that everything you do costs you. A great example of this is in the exam hall. You never studied nor read your notes even once. Then the exam happened and you have nothing to answer. Because you are ignorant of knowledge, you search for it to your seatmate, but your seatmate won't give you answers, and because of that, you had a low score. You then blame your classmate for not giving you an answer. The foolishness in this is that if you have studied, then you don't need your seatmates to help you, and you should have been able to answer the exam and have a high score.